On the morning of July 22, 2011, Norway felt exactly like Norway. Calm, orderly, safe. In Oslo, people rode bicycles to work. Cafes opened their doors. Government employees filed into offices carrying coffee and folders, thinking about deadlines, meetings, and weekend plans. Nothing felt urgent. Nothing felt dangerous. And that is exactly what made what happened next so devastating. Because while the country moved through its day with quiet confidence, Anders Breivik woke up already knowing how the day would end. Breivik did not appear frantic. He did not rush. He did not argue with anyone. Security cameras would later show him moving through Oslo with almost surgical calm, wearing a police-style uniform, his posture relaxed, his expression neutral. To strangers, he looked official. To passers-by, he looked harmless. That calm would become one of the most chilling aspects of the case. Breivik spent the early hours of July 22 finishing preparations that had taken years, not days, not weeks, years. He had written a manifesto exceeding 1,500 pages, an obsessive document filled with ideology, grievances, and justification. He had gathered materials quietly. He had rehearsed the logistics in his mind over and over again. And yet, on this morning, nothing about him suggested urgency. He ate, he dressed, he checked his equipment, methodically. Just after 3 p.m., people in Oslo's government district were thinking about leaving work early. The summer sun reflected off glass buildings. Tourists wandered nearby. Then the world cracked open. A massive car bomb detonated outside the Prime Minister's office, ripping through the heart of the city. The explosion shattered windows across blocks. Concrete disintegrated. Cars flipped. Smoke poured into the sky. 8 people were killed instantly. Dozens more were injured. Norway, one of the safest countries in the world, had just experienced its deadliest attack since World War II. At first, no one understood what had happened. Was it a gas explosion, an accident, a foreign terror attack? Emergency responders rushed in. Streets were sealed. Hospitals activated mass casualty protocols. And while all eyes focused on Oslo, Breivik was already moving on to the second act. About 40 kilometers away lay Utøya, a small island hosting a youth summer camp run by Norway's Labour Party. Teenagers and young adults filled the island, talking politics, swimming, laughing. It was supposed to be the safest place imaginable. Breivik arrived by ferry, dressed as a police officer. He told the guard he was there to conduct a security check in light of the Oslo bombing. No one questioned him. Why would they? Once on the island, Breivik began shooting, systematically, deliberately. Young people ran for cover, behind trees, rocks, buildings, believing at first it was a drill. Some tried to help the wounded. Some hid in water, pretending to be dead. For over an hour, the island became a killing ground. Breivik moved calmly, reloading with precision. He showed no panic, no hesitation, no urgency. Later, people would ask the same question again and again. How could someone snap like this? But the truth was harder to accept. He didn't snap. He planned. He waited. He chose this day because he believed it would give his actions meaning. That belief made him more dangerous than rage ever could. By the time police reached Utøya, 69 people were dead on the island. Most were teenagers. Norway stood still. Parents searched hospitals. Phone lines collapsed. The country learned that safety could be violated, not by chaos, but by cold intention. Because Breivik did not behave like the villains people expect. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't erratic. He wasn't visibly unstable. He was calm. and that calm allowed him to walk into places where trust still existed. When the ferry pulled away from the dock at Utøya, the island returned to its usual rhythm. Laughter drifted between cabins. Music hummed from portable speakers. Teenagers, many attending their first political camp, argued about policy, flirted awkwardly, and planned evening activities. It was summer in Norway, where daylight lingers and danger feels theoretical. None of them knew that the calm man who had just stepped onto the island had already killed 8 people in Oslo and had no intention of stopping. Breivik's police-style uniform did exactly what it was designed to do. It lowered defenses. Camp organizers believed he was there to help. After all, the government district had just been bombed. A security check made sense. Authority made sense. Calm made sense. He gathered the camp leaders together, telling them he needed to brief them about safety. They trusted him. That trust would cost them their lives. The first gunshots were confusing, not immediately terrifying. Some thought it was a drill. Others thought fireworks were part of an event. A few froze, unable to reconcile the sound with the setting. Then bodies fell, and reality snapped into place with horrifying speed. Utøya is small, but in chaos, it felt endless. Teenagers ran into the forest, branches tearing at their skin. Some dove into the water, believing distance would protect them. Others hid behind rocks, under buildings, or inside cabins, pressing their bodies flat against the earth. Phones rang unanswered. Text messages were sent in fragments. "He's shooting. I'm hiding. I love you." Survivors would later say that Breivik's calm was more terrifying than rage. He walked, he aimed, he reloaded, he spoke occasionally, issuing commands, pretending to be police, calling people out of hiding. Some believed him, some stood up. They didn't survive. Dozens fled into the lake, swimming toward the mainland they could see but couldn't reach. The water was cold, the distance was deceptive, exhaustion set in quickly. Some drowned, others were shot while swimming. Those who survived clung to rocks and driftwood, staying silent as bullets struck the water nearby. The island offered no true shelter, only chances. Emergency calls flooded police lines. Reports were chaotic, multiple shooters, explosions, unknown motives. Confusion slowed response. Boats were mobilized, but logistics lagged behind urgency. On the island, minutes felt like hours. Friends hid together, whispering prayers. Some pretended to be dead. Others listened to footsteps, deciding whether to hold their breath or run. Every decision carried the weight of life and death. Years later, survivors would recall details that refused to fade. The sound of leaves under boots, the smell of gunpowder mixed with summer air, the unbearable quiet after screams stopped. One survivor hid under bodies. Another floated in water, counting seconds between shots. A third played dead, eyes open, watching the shooter's feet pass inches away. These were not heroic choices, they were human ones. When police finally reached Utøya, they advanced carefully, uncertain of what awaited them. Breivik did not resist. He surrendered calmly. He laid down his weapons. He believed the real work was already done. By the time the shooting ended, 69 people were dead on the island. Most were teenagers. Norway, a country defined by peace, trust, and social cohesion, had lost its innocence in a single afternoon. Because this wasn't chaos spiraling out of control, it was control weaponized. The same calm that let Breivik walk into secure areas allowed him to exploit trust, something Norway had built its identity upon. And once that trust was broken, nothing felt safe again. The killing stopped with a click. Breivik laid his weapons on the ground and raised his hands. There was no chase, no final stand, no dramatic collapse. When police approached, they saw something that felt almost unreal after the carnage. A man standing upright, composed, his breathing steady. He did not ask for a lawyer. He did not ask for medical help. He asked to speak. That request would define everything that followed. As officers secured him, Breivik's posture remained rigid, rehearsed. He identified himself formally. He followed commands. He corrected officers on details, as if accuracy mattered more than remorse. Survivors watching from hiding places felt a second wave of disbelief. The person who had turned their island into a graveyard did not look like the monsters from movies. He looked like someone who expected to be listened to. Police transported him off Utøya. The island fell quiet, broken only by helicopters and sobs. Bodies lay where they had fallen. Friends searched for names on lists that were not yet complete. Norway would spend the night counting. In the hours after the arrest, Breivik's identity spread across the world. His photograph, expressionless, almost bureaucratic, appeared on screens everywhere. Commentators scrambled to explain motives. Early assumptions collapsed. This was not an attack ordered from abroad. This was homegrown, and the man responsible was eager to explain himself. Before the attacks, Breivik had emailed a massive document to hundreds of contacts. It was part political screed, part autobiography, part instruction manual. He framed himself as a soldier, his violence as a necessary act. Authorities urged the public not to read it. Media outlets debated how much to quote. Survivors begged the world not to amplify the words that justified their friends' deaths. But the manifesto existed, and it posed a dilemma Norway had never faced at this scale. How do you prosecute a man who wants his trial to be a megaphone? When the trial began in 2012, security was unprecedented. The courtroom was austere, controlled, deliberately stripped of spectacle. And yet the spectacle arrived anyway because Breivik brought it with him. He entered calmly. He offered a salute associated with extremist ideology. He spoke without shaking. He smiled at moments that made the room recoil. Families of the dead sat feet away. Some covered their ears. Some stared him down. Some left the room to breathe. Breivik did not deny the killings. He insisted they were justified. He argued not insanity, but necessity. He rejected remorse and asked the court to recognize his acts as political. He corrected terminology. He objected to descriptions that framed him as irrational. The prosecution faced an unprecedented challenge. Proving guilt was easy. Limiting harm was not. Because every sentence risked becoming a slogan. Norway's legal system does not seek vengeance. It seeks understanding, prevention, and proportionate response. That meant asking a question that horrified many families. Was Breivik legally sane? Psychiatric evaluations conflicted. One report suggested psychosis. Another concluded he was fully aware and ideologically driven. The implications were enormous. An insanity verdict could mean treatment instead of prison, something families feared would validate his narrative. The court deliberated carefully, publicly, under a global microscope. Breivik was found legally sane. He was sentenced to 21 years of preventive detention, Norway's maximum sentence, renewable indefinitely if he remained a danger to society. To many outside Norway, the sentence sounded lenient. To Norwegians, it was precise. It denied him martyrdom. It denied him the validation he sought. And it placed the focus where the country wanted it to remain, on the victims. During the trial, survivors testified. They spoke of hiding under bodies, of swimming until their muscles failed, of trusting a uniform that lied. Their voices were steady, their words were exact. They refused to let ideology overshadow memory. In those moments, the courtroom shifted. This was no longer about the defendant, it was about endurance. Norway's leaders addressed the country with restraint. They promised openness, not fear, more democracy, not less, compassion without naivete. Critics argued, brief, complicated ideals, but the choice was intentional. Do not become what the violence demands. Breivik would be imprisoned. Norway would not be transformed into a fortress. Because this is where the story stops being about the attack and starts being about the aftermath. About how justice can function without spectacle. About how restraint can be a form of resistance. And about the uncomfortable truth that attention can be the oxygen violence seeks. When the courtroom emptied and the sentence was handed down, Norway did not exhale in relief. It inhaled and held it. Because justice, in this case, did not feel like an ending, it felt like a responsibility. The violence was over, the killer was contained, but the country now had to decide what would define it more: the man who tried to terrorize it, or the values it chose to defend in response. Utøya was transformed. The island where terror once ruled became a place of remembrance. Names were carved into stone, roses lined pathways, silence was treated as sacred. Visitors walked slowly, deliberately. Survivors returned, some after years, some never again. There were no dramatic statues of heroism, no towering monuments of rage, just absence. And that absence said everything. In Oslo, the government quarter carried scars that were not erased. Glass was repaired, but memory remained embedded in the streets. The bombing site became a reminder not of vulnerability, but of resilience without denial. For survivors, time did not heal evenly. Some returned to school and politics, determined not to let violence steal their future. Others struggled with panic, guilt, and the unbearable question of why them. Many spoke of something unexpected. They were haunted less by the noise and more by the calm voice, the calm walk, the calm certainty. Because it dismantled the idea that evil announces itself. Norway's response drew global attention and criticism. Some argued the sentence was too lenient. Others said focusing on the perpetrator risked glorification. Still others insisted transparency was the only defense against repetition. The country chose openness. Court documents remained public. Trials were accessible. Debate was encouraged. The philosophy was simple and difficult: sunlight over silence. From prison, Breivik continued to seek relevance, filing complaints, demanding recognition, framing himself as a victim of the system he had tried to destroy. Norway responded not with outrage, but with procedure. No platform, no spectacle, no amplification. It was, in its own way, a refusal. It is easier to believe that only madness produces such violence. But experts, survivors, and prosecutors agreed on something crucial. Breivik understood exactly what he was doing. He planned calmly. He chose targets deliberately. He relied on trust to maximize harm. And that means the lesson is not about unpredictability. It is about ideology combined with patience. Because the danger is not always loud. Sometimes it wears a uniform. Sometimes it speaks politely. Sometimes it waits years. And when society believes calm equals safe, it leaves a door open that should never exist. Breivik wanted to be remembered. He wanted his ideas to spread further than his bullets. Whether he succeeded depends not on what he did, but on what we choose to repeat. Does refusing to amplify a killer's ideology actually reduce future violence? Can a justice system be firm without becoming vengeful? Why does calm behavior often disarm our sense of danger? What responsibility do media and audiences share in how these crimes are remembered? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. If this story made you think, question, or reflect, like this video, subscribe to Unimaginable True Crimes, turn on notifications for the next investigation. These stories matter, not for shock, but for understanding. Before you leave, this wasn't the only case where calm masked catastrophe. In our next episode, police respond to something routine and uncover a crime so hidden it shocks even seasoned investigators. Watch the next video on your screen now.